Mr. Koh, when I spoke to you a few years ago, you had such great memories of old Jurong.
Yeah,
Could you share some of those memories?
yeah. I remember speaking to you about maybe before the COVID-19. So it's still vivid to me because those are ingrained in me. So basically, I'm quite uh, happy to relate them to you again.
I understand that you had visited Jurong when you were in primary school. Is that right?
The reason why I say Jurong is not unfamiliar is because I used to live at 6.5 milestone Bukit Timah, which is probably about 1 milestone away, about a mile away from Jarang Jurong Kecil. And Jarang Jurong Kecil has evidence of the fact that in one incident, at least that's part of Jurong, that my parent brought me to a political rally where Lim Chin Siong was speaking. So that was one incident. And I related that incident later in my book, which will be published probably in 2025, hopefully, that I was very struck by this young man who was speaking, although I was only about 6 or 7 years old. So that was my very, very first introduction to Jurong. Jalan Jurong Kecil is called Seven Milestone Bukit Timah. And that place is now transformed. But during my time, there was a market there, a wet market. My next instance where when I was slightly older, uh, probably about 12 years old, after I finished my PSLE, I was I enrolled at Bukit Panjang Government High School. That instance was the first instance that another word Jurong crop up when I joined the Scout group. The Scout group or the Scout troop was called 49 Eagles Group, and we were always under the instruction or the impression that we were part of Jurong district because the Scout used that boundary at Bukit Panjang as part of Jurong. So that's another instance where Jurong was mentioned to me. Okay. Basically, the Scout brought about another instance where we went to camp at the Jurong Park camp. But beyond that, I think what was most impressionable to me was when we went for the hike to towards the west from Bukit Panjang, and we reached a point called Jurong River, where the first time we saw settlers, probably could be Malay or could be Sakai settlers there, and they were fishermen. But for us scouts, we had one enjoyable instance where we were trying to do rafting across the river. The river was then quite wide to me, at least as a small boy. But what was more interesting was when we were rafting across the river, we saw what it looked like crocodiles. Some people mentioned that it could be crocodile, but it could be other whatever animal or whatever sea creature it was. But those were impressions that I formed that Jurong was very wild, okay, at that point of time. And at the camp in Jurong Park, we also had instances where we enjoy not just the environment, but also the Commodore, the fellowship, and the scouting activities. And one very impressionable instance was when the scoutmaster, one Mr. Tan Lian Huat, who was not a school teacher, but rather a volunteer scoutmaster assigned by the Singapore Scout Association to our school. He was very strict person, and I think he lost his temper. And that time we saw for the first time how it could have been very violent instance where he slapped a boy, and that boy was a school or classmate or schoolmate of mine. And that incident happened in Jurong Park. and it always ingrained in me. The Jurong Park is not only a nice place, but it was also a place where uh, people had to learn their lesson by not being rude, by not being too arrogant, and but at the same time, I think also that the authority figure needs to understand the plight, understand the students or the scout point of view that they are sometimes a bit mischievous or they are probably playful, and they could give them some leeway. But whatever it is, those were some interesting memories that I have in Jurong Park. So Jurong Park eventually moved off because by the mid 1960s, 1967, 66, when they were taken back, and then the government provided a scout camp to be in Jalan Bahar, towards Jalan Bahar, more at the end of Serumbun. Okay, it was called currently the Serumbun Scout Camp now. Okay, so those were the instances where, as a student, I enjoyed being a scout and moving to Jurong, the wonderful wild area to me, and farmland as well as um, prawn fields in certain areas of Jurong. By the way, to us, the boundary of Jurong was towards West Coast, because along West Coast there was a place at Raja Road, and from then on towards the west, that was part of, to us, was part of Jurong. I'm not sure it's the official delineation of Jurong is, but it was a very big district to me, because in colonial time, I suppose they call it the rural districts. All right, and we as students found this vast area for hiking, for camping, and for other activities. So those were the earlier part of it. But one instance when, well, not being a student, but being part of my experience with my mother's, or my mother's employer, when Mr. Ferguson brought us to Jurong from Holland Village area, Linden Drive, where he was staying in a huge bungalow. That one was more of a picnic towards this place called Pulau Damau Laut, which is off. I'm not sure. Maybe it could be near Tuas area. I'm not exactly sure. But now it's currently Jurong Island. It's part of Jurong Island. Okay, so I remember distinctly. By then I was probably in Sec 2 or Sec 3, around that time, Sec 2, Sec 3, that we had to take the long and winding road, Old Jurong Road, from Jalan Jurong Kecil upwards to the end of that road. And near there was a little pier. And then he took his motorboat to sail across to this island, which was not far off. Sometimes he sailed from North Buona Vista, at the end of South Buona Vista, South Buona Vista Road. There was another pier which had disappeared altogether. I think it should be near current day NUS, in the southern part of NUS. So from there, we'll sail all the way to Pulau Damau Laut, which is again a Malay settlement, a few holiday bungalows there. And one instance that I remember distinctly again was my younger brother, probably was 7 years old or 6 years old. He came with us and he was on the boat, but I was looking after the children. And when I swam back to the boat, I was I panicked because I thought that he had fallen overboard, because when I yelled out to him, there was no sound. Later, to my utter surprise, he had rolled under the boat seat, and he was still sleeping happily. So those were the instances of Jurong seaside, I would call it, the offshore, not very far from the shore, but offshore area, which, yeah. So that instance was the earlier encounters with being in Jurong. What is more interesting is I had spent a longer period, about 3 years, in the 1968 to 1971, when I was posted as a teacher to Jalan Lama Secondary School. Now, this school is located at 10 Milestone, Old Jurong Road.
Mr. Cole, can I just jump in and show you the
Yeah,
map? Show you the
yeah,
map.
yeah. Go ahead. Okay. Yeah, you have a map there. Okay, that's right. That's critical to know that where this is Jalan Lama, the arrow there. And on the other side is Ongi village, which is 10 milestone on the right side. And this road actually, Jalan Lama eventually linked itself towards Jalan Baru. There's a small track that went over to Jalan Baru on your left, on the western side. Can you see from on that side, just Jalan Baru.
Right.
Currently, Jalan Baru Utara is called Jurong Town Hall Road because the town hall, the submarine building, it was built around there. So that was our area when I was a teacher in Jalan Lama Secondary School, where with another sports teacher or PE teacher from Rama, we do lots of training up to Jalan Baru. Then we ran back towards Old Jurong Road, and that means we ran from Jalan Lama toward the west, towards Jalan Baru, through the kampong, and then we went back upward north towards Old Jurong Road, and then we turned eastward towards Jalan Lama and came back by another track, which is not shown on this map, where Jalan Lama was located. By the way, Jalan Lama Secondary School was located on a hill, which was probably about 50 to 60 meter high. Not that high, no, probably, about 40 to 50 meter high. Was quite a view from the top of the school towards the old Jurong Road. Currently, the school site, the old Jalan Lama School site, is used by Crest Secondary School. In the interim, when Jalan Lama moved out in 1981, due to falling enrollment, this school, another school came and used this site. The school was called Commonwealth Secondary School. Now, Commonwealth Secondary School is quite a well-known school in this area, was very popular, autonomous school. And I happened to be jogging around the area one day when I already moved to Jurong as my resident, which was not far from this old Jalan Lama site. One day I was jogging around the area and I had the urgency to use the toilet. So I just simply went in. Surprisingly, nobody was at the guard at that time. Probably that will be in the 1990s. Yeah, we moved to Jurong as a resident in Block 213, Jurong East 321, in 1982. So by then I was a principal somewhere in another school. But when I went in, there was nobody at the guard, and so I just quickly went in. It was trespassing, actually. So when I came out from the toilet, the vice principal, of whom I did not know, I don't want to knew the principal then. The vice principal surprisingly asked me, "What are you doing here?" He couldn't recognize me that I was a principal of another school. I think at that time I probably was in the Christchurch Secondary School principal. Then later I moved to Bedok Town as a principal. And he asked me, "What are you doing here? You're trespassing. I can get you arrested." So I told him, "Look, I was having an urgent call, a toilet urgent call, but I know your principal. So please don't try to be, to arrest me or to call the police." And well, he accepted. And to this day, when I met this man, his name, I won't mention his name, but his TCP. I use his initial. I always laugh at the fact that he wanted to get me arrested. That's Jurong. Okay, that's my. But prior to this incident, when I was still teaching in Jalan Lama, I think that's the time that was most memorable to me for the 3 years from May 1968 to May 1971. The 3 years that I were in Jalan Lama Secondary School, I started as a trainee teacher and then later qualified. And those 3 years were very memorable because the students were really uh, they were not they were hardworking. They were not as worldly, or they were not exposed to the exterior environment, whether it's Singapore or overseas. But they were children of farm settlers or farmers. All right, and they were nice kids, but sometimes they were led astray by political ideologies, which at that time prevalent in the 60s, where the Barisan socialists were around. So they, you used to call us running dogs because to us were English speaking. They were mainly Chinese speaking teachers there. And that school was more of a Chinese school, although it was called integrated, Jalan Lama Integrated School. But but as teachers, we ignore some of those remarks, although our colleagues, the staff, sometimes will refer to us as those of, government people. They were either staff, we were government servants or civil servants. But the interesting thing was that they meant no harm. They were probably misled. I'm talking about the students. Some teachers, mainly the Nanta graduates, felt resentment at that point of time because their degree was not well accepted. Although some of them were teaching as government teachers. Okay. The interesting thing about Jalan Lama was that in the first instance, it was established due to a certain promise or undertaking made by the PAP government that there were only one secondary school in this Jurong district, that's Jurong Secondary, and they were clamored by the residents around Jalan Lama area, the 10 milestone area, that they needed a secondary school. And so that's why they built this school. The school was a makeshift, more or less a makeshift building, because it was single story, lying on a slope or on the terraces of the hill. And it was a nice environment, except that in those days there wasn't any aircon classroom or fan, much fan to do with it, or a ceiling fan or whatever it is. So it could be warm, but we all endured those little discomfort. But the important thing was to us that the kids were willing to participate more in the outdoor activities because they were naturally inclined to it. They were strong in their body. They were fit because they worked hard on their farms, probably. And they were mostly good natured people. To me, I think that was one great takeaway that I had as a young teacher, as a trainee teacher. The principal was more aloof, being Chinese educated. Uh, but there were two senior assistants, which to me was a great help because they were English educated, both of them, and although they speak Mandarin, and they helped me to adjust to the school environment as a new teacher. So Jurong to me was Jalan Lama, but more importantly, also the activities that we did with the student, mainly cross country, road running, and track and field. So those activities didn't demand too much of facility, like where you need a football field, which there wasn't there, or they did have basketball, but there wasn't things like badminton, indoor badminton court or whatever like that. So anyway, we capitalized on the fact that the students were naturally fit people, and we trained them, and we did achieve quite a bit in terms of inter-school sports for running, for track and field, and for cross country. Okay.
Mr. Ko,
Yeah.
I think we should also say at this point that you were trained as a PE teacher, weren't you?
Yeah, I was a PE teacher, plus I teach English as a second language. Yeah. I wasn't in the university yet because I was a late developer, in the sense that I had no opportunity to go to university, although I qualified. And because I came from a very humble background, my my parents asked me to start working in the naval base first. And I worked there for almost 5 years before getting my higher school certificate, which is called A level now. And then I entered the teachers training college to be a training teacher. At that time, TTC, Teachers Training College, to us, jokingly, we say it was the teachers' torture chamber, because actually we do part time, or we did part time in the morning, or some of us would did part time in the afternoon, and we teach the other half day. And in the evening, after that, for the men, we were asked to do national service, although for some of us, we do not fall under the age bracket liable for national service. So there was a constant, constant back-to-back activity during the weekdays. All right. So to us, it was torture chamber because it was hard, demanding expectation on us to do within the 2 years. Being HSC or A level, we did only 2 years part time. The O level would do 3 years. But even within the 2 years, it was a very compressed course. So anyway, whatever it is, I'm quite glad that we went through those periods of endurance. And I, at the same time, I was budding, or was starting to become a national athlete in track and field as well. So those were the things that was very, to me, very precious, because the early days of development, as you mature, you need challenges, and those challenges put me in good state in my later life, my later career. So at Jalan Lama, that was the epitome of being part of Jurong Estate, because not far away there were industrial development, the Jurong Industrial Estate, and sometimes called Ghost Folly, Dr. Goh Keng Sui's project. And that was a start, because they started probably in 65 or 66. And when I came by 1968, we could see the shaping up of some of the buildings, factory buildings, and the headquarters at Jurong Town Hall, or what we call the current building. I suppose it's still called Jurong Town Hall building, or I'm not sure. The submarine building. Yeah. So those were the things that were taking shape as we were nearby. We were just on the fringe of the industrial estate. Of course, the main part of the industrial estate were further towards west and further towards north. All right. So this was the more on the southern fringe of the Jurong industrial estate. So I'm
Mr.
glad
Koh,
that yeah.
before we move to
Yes.
Jurong Industrial Estate, I'd like to
Yes.
show some photographs that
Sure.
you sent
Sure.
me
Yes.
at
Yes.
Jalan Lama School.
Thank you. Okay. Yes. Okay. I was asked on the very first day by the gentleman on the left. I'm seated on the right of the principal in dark glasses. The gentleman on the right, on his left, is Mr. Tan Cheng Ho. Tan Cheng Ho is a senior assistant. He was one who met me on my first day when I reported on the 21st May 1968. And he said, we look at your CV, which the ministry sent to him, the posting memo that you're a scout before, so you better become a scoutmaster. He was one of them. And the sport secretary is not there. But anyway, the sport secretary endorsed his view. And so I was quickly recruited to become a scoutmaster. You notice that I'm the only scoutmaster. Even the gentleman on my right, he's a Chinese teacher. He was more for translating any instruction that I need to tell the scouts. Yeah, so I had to bear this blunt as a trainee teacher to take care of the scout as well, besides the track and field matters. So this is quite interesting, because the scouts were quite a big group for a small school, about 500 students. So we thrive on being able to take them out for hikes along Jurong area as well. Yeah. So thank you for this one. This is a very
I
nice
wanted to
photo.
ask you, how were the students as scouts? Did they
Oh,
perform?
they were very keen
Yeah.
learners. Although there are certain scout activities which they excel in. Like for example, if you ask them to tie a proper knot, they may not be able to do it. But if you ask them to do things like planting something to share in the school, garden plot or whatever we did for the school service, they were very good at that. And they, when they go out for trekking or hiking, they can tell you what type of plants or what type of trees there were as we go along the road because they were familiar with the jungle area. So they were natural scout, as I say. But of course, they learn woodcraft, they learn camping skill, they learn other first aids and all those things in scouting as well. So they were keen learners. They were extremely very um, friendly to one another, and they had this what we call the fellowship in scouting for long, even after they left school. So I enjoyed being with them for that 3 years when I was there.
Let me
Yeah,
show another photo.
yeah. Okay. So the next one, you have one photo. Okay, this is a cross country. Yes, if you see there are three teachers there. I'm standing on the extreme left of the photo. Then I have this my mentor on the extreme right bottom right, Mr. Rama. Rama, he was a classmate of mine in Bukit Panjang, and he was also a runner. But he is more of uh, he was my junior actually in school, but he entered the teaching earlier by 1 year or 2 years
Yeah, I was
because
going to say he looks younger than you.
yeah, sorry,
He looks younger than you.
yeah, yeah, and then the other teacher that he Rama actually guided me for handheld me in my first year or first few months of teaching. The other teacher, Mr. Su, a science teacher, but he was more or less like an advisor to the track and field team or the cross country team as well. So these are the girl champion team, I think, in Bukit Timah district. Correct. There were 5 districts in sports at that time: Bukit Timah, Katong, Jurong, no, not Jurong, Bukit Timah, Katong City, and in the north, I think it was another district called probably Woodlands or Seletar or whatever. Okay, so this was the Bukit Timah district cross country. Yeah,
How were the
championship.
students as runners?
Yeah,
How were the students as runners? Were they good runners? Strong runners?
yeah, they were natural runners. We had to teach them a little bit of other skill uh, in terms of being able to strike properly, to control their breathing and other aspects. But they ran naturally, and so it was fun to train them because they were raw products actually. This is at Macritchie, by the way.
Ah,
After the cross country, this picture was taken there.
actually,
Yeah,
looking closer at the map, at the photograph, they are holding up some medals. Is that right?
there are
They
some years
they won some medals.
medal. Yeah, they're holding the medal. This
Yeah.
this was Bukit Timah, I think, champion, maybe a runners-up team, either champion or runners-up team in cross country at 1 year. Probably this will be 1969, I think, not 68, because we started training in 68, 69 or 70, either year. Because Rama left in 71 to do his law study. He was doing Open University, London University, and he went into the UK to finish off his law degree. Yeah.
It's
So those
pretty impressive. Yeah, pretty impressive.
yeah, correct. Those days we enjoyed. Uh, I was at that point probably just came back from my TDC, so I was not in sports gear. Rama was in running gear there.
Uh,
Yeah,
uh. So
yeah,
did you usually run with them?
yeah. I did. When we trained, we had to. One in the front, which I normally take the pace, and Rama at the back because we're quite careful about that because there were dogs and there were other obstacles, implements on the way. So normally the two of us, we are two track and field teachers. So one will run in front, and most of the time I did that, and then Rama will be the back end, so that there will be somebody to make sure that if anyone is injured along the training route, then he could call for help. We had no handphone at that time, so we have physically had to be present. And of course, the other teachers are supporters. We had very good supporters from the teachers, from the colleagues, even the bookshop seller, the canteen vendor. They came to support us. So I think it's more like a little family, little village school, and that's what I enjoy about being teaching, to start my teaching career in that sense. And the place itself was quiet except for dog barking. And during a fruit season, their parents normally come with some basket of fruits in appreciation for the whole school. So that's the feeling of being a family or a village style thing. So I think that's something which will always be with me in my memories of Jurong. Yeah.
Let me show another photo.
This is a bigger group where we had picnics. We arranged for picnic. This will be in Botanic Garden. You see another teacher right on the extreme right, standing. That teacher is, I think he was a science teacher with Mr. So, which is squatting on his left. Mr. So on the left. And then on the extreme left of this picture, there are two gentlemen there. They're younger gentlemen, and they are both Chinese stream teachers. I think probably they were maths teacher. Both of them were maths teacher. Now I think I seated down on the front row. Third from the left, and then we have another boy. I think this was another chap, but Rama is in the middle of that. The one wearing the hat could be one of the supporters, correct? One of the supporters from the canteen, probably a canteen vendor. You notice that there are some very young people more towards the right of the photo, sitting in the front row. Yes, very young chap. They were Sec 1, and this will probably be the year when we had the first English stream class. Yeah, they were very young people, Sec 1, and there were one or two of other minority races as well. One or two Malay boys, very few Indian boys there, mostly Chinese people there, and they speak Mandarin.
Yeah,
Even the Malay.
I was going to say, right? There are some Malay girls in the photo.
Yeah, there were some Malay girls at the back. Yeah. That's right. And so they speak Mandarin, by the way. That's very surprising. At that time, there were the national language in this school was Mandarin or Chinese, but we tried to teach them English because we were the minority. We were called the second language teachers, both Rama and myself, and one or two other English teachers as well. But they were. It's easier to teach them the second language to the Malay and the Indian boys, but to the Chinese are harder. There were some prejudices against the English education, I think, in those days. A little bit of that. But eventually they changed because the school became more and more English towards the end. Just as any other schools, Chinese were considered as a second language after that. Yeah. I mean, that's the national curriculum after that. So this is a nice picture where we had a picnic for mainly the track and field people.
Yeah. Could you tell us?
One or two classes. Sorry.
Could you tell us where did the students and their parents live? Where did they come from?
Yeah, they come from mainly the 10-mile area, the 10-mile Bukit Jurong area, mainly that area. If they are farmers, then they will live out of that little small town, and they will be spread towards, if in today's term, will be Bukit Batok, more that Bukit Batok farmland. And then on the west of the school, that will be the farmland of the Jurong area where many had to be resettled. Even the Bukit Batok one, they resettled them because the HDB estate came in. All right. There were some of them who came as far as Tuas, where they had fishing livelihood. Their parents had fishing livelihood. Where we visited some of the place there. And then also a small group came from the West Coast prawn field area. In those days, there were prawn fields or other fish pond or whatever it is. And so those were the main districts or the main locations that they came from. The majority of the people who came to Jalan Lama were those that were considered lower in ability because Jurong Secondary was a more popular school and they would take off the better students there. Some of this, the better students in this area near Jalan Lama will probably travel all the way to Bukit Panjang, which was quite difficult for them. They will have to go through quite a bit of bus before reaching Bukit Panjang, the other secondary school, or even the very, very good ones, the very, very better ability one, will go all the way down to Whitley or to Sis Cottage in school. I'm talking about secondary school. But Chinese school, they will go to Chinese High. Those are the really good ones, or Nanyang girls there. But these people left behind are mainly the weaker students. But generally, they were very grateful. When I was living, I could sense that they understood the fact that we did our best to help them, not only in study but also in their personal development, in their character, in the value for formulation or whatever it is. So these kids were, to me, these are way back in the 60s where I will not encounter them as a principal in the 1990s. When I became a principal in early 1990s, they were quite different cohort of students altogether because we were more urbanized by the 1990s. Yeah, these were more in the rural districts, and they came from poorer homes. Socioeconomic status was much lower then, but they were nice kids, and they tried. They were jovial, cheerful. They were honest, down to earth, and definitely they were respectful. They were respectful in many respects. Yeah. So
Could,
this were the kids there.